Happy Pride Month, everybody. This is the Sliders Review. I'm here today to talk to you about Sailor Moon S, I believe. Well, Season 3, Episode The Bonds of Destiny, Uranus Distant Past. Also known in the Deke version as related destined past, or something like that. Anyway, so this has to do with Uranus and a backstory of when she became Sailor Uranus when she came down to Earth. So basically, this is the story of how she met Neptune. And like the thing about these two is that okay, this is gonna be the Japanese Viz, also American Viz dub, not the Deke version, because in there they were just cousins, kissing cousins, but cousins and everything. Now this is no, see, they are actually in a relationship with each other. They are the first, no, they're the second, well, they're the first like lesbian couple in Sailor Moon, but Sailor Moon has also had like, other LGBT relationships and stuff before then. These two were introduced in the third season. They are not part of the inner senshi, but they are part of the outer. The outer is where like they supposed to stop threats before they come to that of like the Moon Kingdom or Earth and stuff like that. Now, these two were very, very, very popular when they was introduced, even back in the Deke version. Because in their civilian form, they're so warm and like caring and just all around like really cool. But then when they transform, they're kind of stubborn and mean. Why? Because they're on a mission and everything. And their mission is to stop the silence and find the Messiah and find the talismans and stuff like that. And they would do whatever it takes and stop whoever they have to, even if it's the inner senshi and everything, just to like complete their mission. They are very ruthless when like they are on a mission and they transform and stuff. But when they're in their civilian form, like they're just the most like loving people you'll ever meet. The atmosphere and animation changes when they come on screen. It's like more fuzzy and warm, and it's this beautiful music playing in the background. They go out their ways to like see if people are okay, like this see how they're doing. Girls always hit on Haruka because she looks like a dude and everything. And sometimes dudes they'll hit on Michiru and everything. And so, but not that much, but like you really don't see that many hit on her. But I remember this one time she had like a student and she was teaching her to play like violin, and he kind of like had like a little crush on her and stuff. But pretty much every girl who sees Haruko is like in love with her. They think she's a dude. She's very popular. She's a year older than that of Neptune and the inner senshi. So she's in high school while they're still in middle school. But when you look at their animation, they don't even look like they're middle school or teenagers. They look like they're adults and everything. And Pluto is the oldest in college, and Saturn is the youngest, along with Chibiusa and everything. So when it comes to Haruko and everything, she loves sports. She loves to compete. She loves race car driving. So basically, she tells the story about how, like, before she became like a guardian and everything, she used to compete for like fun, but then she started doing it for sport. But race car driving is like her passion because she just feels like she is the wind. She's as fast as the wind and everything. And just that thrill like excites her and everything. And basically, her romantic feelings to Michiru, that would have never happened if they never met through like a mutual friend. Now, here's the thing, a little backstory about them from like I forget how many years, like 100,000, something like that, back when they was like doing like the Moon Kingdom stuff. It's a little fuzzy, but pretty much Since they are in the outer solar system, they are on their respectable planet or like a little asteroid, something like that, and they protect it. So those two never interacted with each other. So it's a good possibility back before when they had their memories, they never knew each other and stuff. That's the good possibility that most people think. Maybe at some point in time they met, but nobody really truly knows. So when the Moon Kingdom fell and people got reincarnated, they got sent down to Earth. But this is the part that kind of confuses me. I kind of forget. Either they all got sent down to Earth and just awoken at different times, or because of the time travel shenanigans of season 2, it kind of altered things. Because when we go to season 2 and go into the future, they're nowhere to be found. The outer Senshi are like nowhere to be found. And so it's a good possibility that time got altered with the whole Chibiusa thing in season 2. But then again, the creator didn't create them until season 3 and never had really no intentions of creating them until season 3 in the third arc and everything. So, it's just one of those things that's slightly confusing, whatever. And so Neptune, she somehow awoken on her own by having like these dreams, a vision of the future getting destroyed. And the thing about the outer Senshi, they're more powerful than the inner. And not only are they more powerful, they have visions of like dark comings and everything. So Neptune somehow awoken from that, and she took her destiny. She took her transformation lip rod thing. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm yawning. It's so late. It's like 2 in the morning or something. I'm recording this. And so she transformed, and then her memory started flooding back of the past. And so she was always drawn to that of Saturn. So she went like looking for her. Well, they got introduced by a mutual friend. So in this episode, the inner Senshi are like, going to this high school, talking about the entrance exam and what classes they're going to take and all this other stuff. And they're making fun of Usagi because, she's so dumb and everything. And so then they meet this person running track. Very famous and everything. Well, one of the Death Busters is looking for a pure heart. And I think it's Kalanite, Kalanite. And so because Dr. Tomei, he's all like, he has an idea that maybe you can find a pure heart with an athlete. So she goes and she finds like this track runner. And so before then, she was telling the inner Senshi that she's really good, she's really fast, but there was somebody who was faster than her. It was Haruko and everything. And so next thing you know, she gets attacked, and Haruko can see this, and she calls Neptune and everything. And this is when we get the backstory. So the track and field person, she introduces her to Michiru. They're at some kind of like banquet dinner and everything. And the thing about Haruko is that she dresses like a dude. So she's in the tux and everything. She's built like a dude, like kind of like Tuxedo Mask. And so she's getting these visions and don't know why. At some point in time when she was racing, she heard a voice talk to her about moving like the wind and everything like that. It was Neptune, but she doesn't know that yet. And so she knows that Michiru is like a violin player and she paints. And Michiru asks, can she draw her one day? And she's like, nah, she ain't into that kind of stuff. And then so she looks at one of her paintings and is all like, how can somebody as nice looking as you paint something so depressing and morbid looking, stuff like that, It's basically like a vision she has and she painted it. So then Michiru starts talking about like destiny and how like they're destined and this and that, and Haruko's pissed, so like, you're wrong about me and all this other stuff, and they just have like a huge argument, right? And Michiru's all like, you don't know me and blah 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 and stuff like that, because Haruko feels like nobody can shape her destiny but her own, and she feels Michiru is trying to kind of like butt in and all this other stuff. Well, Haruko sees this boy and he's in pain. He turns into a monster. And so then as he turns into a monster, there's like a glowing light near him. It's Uranus transformation, like lip rod thing. So she's about to touch it, and Neptune tells her, "Don't do it, because if you do, then the future you want to have will be tainted, or altered or so. The life you want to have as a race car driver and like a normal person, it will never be, because once you touch that thing, you will be just like me, destined to like guard and protect and everything." And something about like how she's been like looking for her and all this other stuff. So of course, at some point in time, she touches the rod to accept her destiny, and so she transforms. And so in the present, she transforms, and her and Neptune, they fight the monster. This is when the inner Sentry started being very weak in everything. I hated that. So in a way, they defeat the monster with their planetary power, and then Sailor Moon is there to like, give the final blow. And then she starts talking about how like having Michiru in her life was one of the best things ever, and how her life feels like complete, and how something like she's always like yearned for her and stuff like that. And so at the end, they just like, they hop in the car, and she's all like, "I just want to drive, don't care where, and just like be with you," and stuff like that. They are one of the sweetest couples in this show, and at least they're of age, unlike that of Mamoru and Usagi. And in the show, they are together, but they don't really do anything too intimate. Like you don't never see them kissing. It's mostly like holding hands and flirting, and like gazing in each other's eyes, and just like caressing one another. And it's always done very beautifully and stuff. But then, of course, in the American version, in the Deke version, they couldn't show this because it was the 90s and they didn't want to show homosexuality. So they made them into cousins, which was very confusing because sometimes they'll be holding each other and it's like, well, aren't they supposed to be cousins? And and so like, because they was afraid little boys might turn gay and little girls might turn lesbian and stuff. And so when it came to the Viz dub, they decided to keep the Japanese version intact. And so, and younger kids have seen this today, and people are choosing whatever sexuality they want to now. And straight people can watch this, LGBT people can watch this, so it doesn't matter. But it was the 90s, and that was like a completely different thing. But this was one of the first depictions of homosexuality in the form of a kid's cartoon and everything. And so it was, but back in the 90s, like I said, for the whole cousin thing. But if it would have been shown in its entirety in the Japanese version, then that representation would have like translated like leaps and bounds, and probably caused people to accept it more back then than what they do now. Alrighty, well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.